Thanks for being with us. We're thrilled to have you on campus today. You're speaking at the Center for Faith and Learning on campus, but I'm curious to hear about what your life has been like after being speaker and what you're up to now.
It's been much more relaxing since I retired as being speaker. I did 20 years on Capitol Hill as a member, and 5 years as a staff before then. My last 2 terms were speaker. As soon as I retired, I wanted to reacquaint myself with my family, frankly. I was on the road 6 days a week. So just being able to, coach basketball, get involved in my kids' lives. My daughter here is a senior. That was really important to me to begin with. I also took on a job as a adjunct professor of economics at the University of Notre Dame. I'm a fellow at a think tank called the American Enterprise Institute. I also founded a poverty foundation in Wisconsin, and I have some private sector positions I hold as well in the private sector, investing, consulting, and I'm on a handful of boards. So I basically decided to do a portfolio of activities, from advocating for the causes I care about, working on the poverty solutions that I really want to see through, and teaching young people in universities. So I just decided to take on a bunch of interesting new challenges and do it in a way where I can control my own schedule, which I never got to do that when I was in Congress. So a better family life, frankly.
But still staying busy.
Still staying busy.
I know you're a practicing Catholic. Can you share with us what you gave up for Lent?
Yeah, I gave up, before I gave up all sweets for Lent.
Okay.
This is years ago, and I maintained it except for ice cream. And I'm from Wisconsin, dairy state, so I like ice cream, so I gave up ice cream this time. So that's the one thing I've always really liked, and I gave that up. I've given up a lot of different things to try and permanently give them up. I gave up soda 20 years ago. Haven't had a can of soda since then. I don't eat dessert anymore except for ice cream. And so I try to give up things that I ought to give up, and this year it was ice cream, but at Easter I'm probably gonna have some ice cream.
Okay, good for you. Well, to get right into it, obviously we have the election coming up. You told the Washington Post last year, quote, "I'm an anti-establishment Republican and Trump is the establishment." We have politicians like Tulsi Gabbard leaving the Democratic Party. Reagan once said, "I didn't leave the Democratic Party, the Democratic Party left me." Do you feel the same way? Do you feel like the Republican Party is leaving you?
Well, I'm definitely out of the establishment norm. I'm not one of the Trump populists. So I haven't left the Republican Party. I'm still a Republican. I'm a conservative Republican. I'm a traditional classical liberal conservative, like a Reagan Republican. But that is, I will concede, not where the bulk of Republicans are right now. If you take a look at the core of the Republican Party, based on polling or politicians, it is really more of this Trump nationalist populism. That is a version of republicanism that I don't subscribe to. I'm a classical liberal conservative Republican. I believe in the Constitution. I believe in the rule of law. I believe in having a strong foreign policy, strong national defense, and free markets and freedom. That runs a bit contrary to the sort of populism that we have these days, much of which, frankly, is tied to a cult of personality, not really tied to any core set of principles or policies.
Okay. You also told ABC I was not a never-Trumper and that you enjoyed succeeding on policies with when you were in office.
Yeah.
And you also said, quote, "We lose with Trump." How do you make sense of, you mentioned it a little bit, your policy goals for the country now, or what you would like to see as an anti-establishment Republican with Trump likely on the ballot this year?
Yeah, I think we're going to lose more seats than we otherwise would with Trump on the ballot. I think this time with the Senate races, we've done better with our nominees. We have better general election candidates. In the past, we've had people who would pledge fealty to Trump to win the primaries only to lose the general elections. And as a result of that, we lost the House and the Senate a couple of times already. We lost the Senate in 2021, we lost the House in 2018, and we lost it in 2020 again, the Senate. So, in 2022, excuse me. So I think we're going to lose more seats than we otherwise would with Trump, because there are just too many suburban swing voters that don't like him, that therefore vote against Republicans. And so I think we would do far better off. Just look at the Nikki Haley polling data. Donald Trump polls a little bit above Joe Biden or tied to Joe Biden. Nikki Haley beats him by 16 points.
Right.
We would have swept in a whole new group of Republicans in the House and the Senate if we had someone like Nikki Haley on top of the ticket who unifies all conservatives, all Republicans, and independents. You don't get that with Donald Trump.
Yeah, that leads perfectly into my next question, actually. You've said in the past, tying into that Biden being weak in the polls isn't necessarily because Trump is strong.
That's right.
Age is obviously a huge component in this election, and you were the youngest Speaker of the House in almost under 50 years. As a college student, I'm sure that people would like to know, how can we get younger people in positions of power
Yeah.
in Congress?
It's a good question. When I was speaker, I was in my 40s, and the people I worked with, the minority leader and the Senate majority and minority leader were in their late 70s. The president was in his late 70s. That's just the way that the lack of term limits has provided sort of careerism in Congress. People have put 30, 40-year careers in Congress, risen to the top, and stayed in those leadership positions. I'd say one of the reasons that I became speaker at the age of 45 is because we term limit our chairmanships in the House, and we churn people through faster. I wish we had term limits across the board. I think that's a really good solution. But in the Republican Congress, with Republicans in the House and the Senate, we term limit our positions. And that means you have fresh blood coming through faster.
Right.
The Democrats don't do that. They don't have term limits, and that means their leaders stay there forever, their committee chairs stay there forever. So I think, honestly, one good solution is if I were a Democrat, I would want term limits on my leadership so fresh blood could come up through the ranks. That's a specific solution that I think has proven to work for Republicans. But frankly, I think term limits across the board for Congress would be a good idea for that. The other thing, young people, you can make a big difference. What's great about this country, and I got elected to Congress when I was 28 years old, you can make a big difference at a young age if you apply yourself, if you're passionate about ideas, and you prosecute them successfully in a good, earnest way. You can make a big difference in this country very quickly, very shortly. So you should be inspired, irrespective of the age of our top leaders, that if you get involved in public service and politics at a young age, you can actually make a big difference in a short period of time. I know if you look at the presidency, it doesn't seem like that, but look down the ballot, look at Congress and governors, state legislatures, and you'll find a lot of promising up-and-coming young people.
Okay. You mentioned Nikki Haley. You were in Governor Haley's corner for quite some time. Now that she's not running anymore, she dropped out of the race, are you going to be campaigning against Trump or just not for him?
I won't I'm just not for him. Look, the problem is I'm with the 70% of Americans who want neither of these people as our candidate. I don't support Joe Biden because of policy, and I don't support Donald Trump because of character. So I'm in that betwixt and between world. So I won't campaign against him, but I just won't campaign for him.
Okay. My last question for you. Do you have a uniting message for Republicans who maybe don't see themselves voting for Trump but can't bring themselves to vote for Biden?
Yeah, it's a question a lot of us are facing. Whether we write somebody in, or let's just say that independent group No Labels puts a Republican on top of the ticket, that's something to be seen perhaps later. My advice is get involved in other Republican races. Get involved in the local House race, in your Senate race. Get involved in local legislative races and help those Republicans up and down the ballot.
Okay. Thank you so much,
You bet.
Speaker Ray.